thank you very much for this wonderful, tremendous invitation to be here. I'm delighted, and I'll keep my remarks brief. Being the last speaker means I can be completely unstructured and reflective, so I'll try to do that. I will be organising an event, by the way, before I forget. I'll be organising an event at the London School of Economics, which will be carrying many of the conclusions and the discussion points from this meeting, and hopefully that will be in late January, hosted by the Department of Law and the Department of Information Systems. We don't have a date just yet, but hopefully this will take this meeting forward to whatever is the next natural level. This is an absolutely critical issue, and I feel, for some of the reasons that are here on the board, that we need to address privacy and competition now, before we find ourselves in an intractable situation where the market has shifted, where the market has locked itself to a series of data pinch points from which there can be no recovery. Now, I'll explain what I mean by this shortly. Interestingly, Sophie mentioned the environmental scope with automobiles. It's fascinating to see how industries can reflect markets and market needs, not just because of regulation that exists, but because of popular demand. But it's very important that the industries are willing and able to reflect the market. Now, as it turns out, here we are with the automotive safety issue. I just want to give you three very, very quick examples from history about how industry dynamics can affect the consumer interface. And I'm going here back more than 30 years, between 30 and 40 years or some of this. If you take a look at the automobile industry, and I won't generalize, but I'll say this is a general theme, you find the more monolithic the industry behaves. In other words, does it lobby with a single voice? Does it act in the market in a single way? The greater that monolithic approach, the greater the depression on the consumer interface. For example, innovation in safety products. I mean, there's a tremendous, I would not want to be parties in the industry that did this, but throughout the history, for example, of the introduction of seat belts, the automobile industry acted as a single monolithic entity to restrict those sort of safeguards. Blatantly so when the automatic seatbelt came in the early 70s. Remember, you switch your engine on, the seatbelt comes around. There was a monolithic approach by industry that ended up in a standoff, effectively, particularly in the United States, with the legislators. It's only when those industries started to open up and see that safety was going to be a differentiator, it was going to be an important market component, that you started to see innovation through Davies and other companies. You see the same on so many areas, workplace safety. Take a look at the industrial health and safety track record of most of the major industries where you find that there is, for example, a monopoly. You find very little workplace safety innovation and introduction. And where industry acts as a block, again, you see this retardation effect on industrial health and safety, workplace health and safety. Same process. Finally, the utilities companies, I'll leave aside for the moment the telecoms companies, but gas, electricity, water. When those utilities started, if we go back to the late 19th century, they were just a series of largely disconnected startups. As they became, and there was a lot of competition on how to win the market, to penetrate the market. As they became, as they inevitably did in many countries, became nationalised and conformed to certain connection standards for the for utility supply, you started to find that the interface for consumers became almost static. There was no interest in wooing the consumer because you had a nationalised infrastructure. So it was not responding to market demand. And you see this on every industry. And certainly it reflects, for example, in the environmental concerns. What I'm particularly anxious to explore is the extent to which the creation of information as a new utility is going to end up replicating the last 50 to 100 years of errors that have been made by dominant industries. And the one thing that I can say with some certainty is that while we have a vibrant competition in the marketplace, while we have a vibrant market of ideas, which is what privacy thrives on, then we have the potential into the future to do, in fact, what industry did with health and safety, and that is to bring privacy and data protection to the core of all of these emerging new industries. But unfortunately, what we find is that within the data industry, there are pinch points, there are, if you like, bottlenecks, conduits through which people have to move to get access to a range of other products and services. So, I know Google has been mentioned here, but search is one such pinch point. You go through a search functionality to get to the rest of the data processing and the products, the cool stuff that people want. If you are denied access to those conduits, then you're denied access to a whole series of product and service related innovation. I think it's certainly one of the things we're going to be dealing with at the London conference is that connection between innovation and competition and privacy. For me, I don't know, some of you may know that the rapporteurs for the regulation and the directive jointly asked me for the European Parliament to assess the new regulation, proposed regulation. And I really was having a very hard job getting my head wrapped around the competition element to this. This is why this is such a tremendously important meeting, certainly for me and for the assessment. But have no doubt how important this is. I mean, only if you go to privacysurgeon.org, which is my blog, I just the other day published the results of the first major privacy survey in India. 10,900 people in India surveyed for the first time ever comprehensively on their views, and it was extraordinary to see the parallel between the results in India and the results in Europe and North America. Tremendously strong parallels, many of them based on a failure of trust to protect the consumer, failure of trust in large organisations and government to protect the consumer. And what you see reflected in that Indian survey, and I'll close on this, in the Indian survey, you see a retardation, you see a limitation on the development of new information economies. These people simply don't trust that their rights will be protected. And that comes, if that's coming through clearly in the Indian survey, and you see it in the EU surveys, what you have here is a common mind globally that points, I think, to the necessity of ensuring that there is some assistance given to freeing up the market so that we can make privacy work. And please, and Rosemary, I know you said earlier, let's get the privacy and data protection regulations sorted, let's get the management of privacy sorted. I'm not so sure that that's going to work here. It may work in some fringe areas, but I think increasingly we've got to go into the competition level and see if that can assist this entire sector to move forward as it should do in a free way. Thank you very much.